Before the sun rose over California's Central Valley, Rafael Castillo was already on his knees, dirt under his nails, sweat beginning to bead across his brow. The air was still, the grass wet with dew, and in his hands, the familiar comfort of pruning shears. To most, he was just the gardener, the quiet man who tended lawns, planted flowers, and trimmed hedges. But Rafa saw more. Every patch of soil he touched reminded him of what he left behind and what he came here to build. He wasn't just shaping gardens, he was shaping his future, 1 yard at a time. Rafa grew up in a dusty village in Michoacan, Mexico. His father worked the land. His mother raised 6 kids in a house with no running water. Chickens clucked in the backyard, and tortillas were made fresh every morning on a wood-burning stove. By age 10, Rafa knew how to plant, harvest, and build with his hands. He helped his father in the cornfields, carried water from the well, and learned the rhythm of seasons by heart. But by 14, he also knew something else. There was no future for him there. Jobs were scarce. Violence was rising. His little brothers needed medicine they couldn't afford. His father, now aging, couldn't keep up with the physical demands of farming. So at 17, he made a choice that would define the rest of his life. He hugged his mother tightly, promised his siblings he'd send money, and kissed the earth one last time. Then he left. He crossed the border alone, no documents, no English, just a small backpack, $83 in pesos, and a folded photo of his family tucked into a shoe. The desert was brutal. His shoes fell apart. He drank rainwater from cactus leaves and nearly collapsed from dehydration. But he made it. To the other side. He arrived in Fresno with blistered feet and a heart full of resolve. He slept at a migrant shelter for the first week, then on a friend of a friend's floor. He found work quickly. A landscaping crew needed extra hands. The foreman didn't ask questions. The job was hard, backbreaking. Rafa spent 12-hour days under the sun digging trenches, mowing lawns, and hauling mulch bags that weighed as much as he did. At night, he shared a 1-bedroom apartment with 8 other men, each with their own story, each with their own dream. They pooled money for food, lived on rice, beans, and tortillas. Rafa sent half of his pay home every week. The rest he saved in an envelope under his mattress. He didn't speak much, but he watched. He learned. When one of the older workers got injured, Rafa took over his duties without being asked. He repaired broken tools, showed up early, cleaned the truck. The foreman started calling him Maestro. Rafa didn't want to cut grass forever. He wanted to own land, land of his own, to build, to pass down, to prove that all the sacrifice meant something. He began asking questions about irrigation, soil types, fertilizer balance. He watched the crew leaders map out garden beds and took mental notes. He visited the public library on Sundays, checking out books on landscaping, horticulture, and business. He read slowly, sounding out English words with a dictionary. He took free community workshops and online webinars at night, using Wi-Fi from a nearby diner. In his notebook, he drew designs for dream gardens. He outlined what trees thrived in which climate zones. He tracked sunlight exposure in different neighborhoods. He kept a tape measure in his pocket, always calculating, always dreaming. Then one day, he asked the foreman if he could take on a small side job. The foreman agreed, as long as Rafa kept up with his full-time schedule. Rafa printed flyers, affordable yard work, tree trimming, honest, reliable. He walked door to door on Sundays, handing them out in neighborhoods where older couples lived. At first, no one called. Then Mrs. Henderson did. An elderly widow with arthritis and a jungle of a backyard. Rafa cleared it in 2 days, pulled weeds, trimmed hedges, laid fresh mulch. She was thrilled. Paid him extra, gave him lemonade and a peanut butter sandwich. More importantly, she told her neighbors. By the end of the month, Rafa had 5 regular weekend clients. He made more in those weekends than in a week with the crew. But he didn't quit his job. He worked both. He saved everything. Then came the letter. A traffic stop on his way home, expired plates, no license, detained, questioned. A letter from immigration followed. He was terrified. The idea of being deported, of losing everything, crushed him. But a church volunteer helped him find legal aid. Through a nonprofit that helped undocumented workers with clean records, Rafa applied for DACA. The process was slow, months of waiting, of anxiety every time the phone rang. But then the letter came. Approved. He could work legally, get a license. register a business. He felt free for the first time in years. Rafa registered his business, Castillo Landscapes. He bought a used Ford F-150, took photos of his best yards, built a website with the help of a local library volunteer. He hired one assistant, then two, all undocumented, all skilled. He trained them, gave them uniforms, paid them above minimum wage. Clients loved him. His designs were thoughtful. His team was professional. His prices were fair. Within 3 years, he had 6 employees and a wait list. He began offering eco-friendly designs, installing drought-tolerant landscapes that saved homeowners money and helped the environment. He added hardscaping, fences, patios. He took night classes in landscape architecture, got certified, learned to use design software. One day, while scouting a new client site, Rafa drove past a small, overgrown lot at the edge of town. A crooked sign read, "For sale by owner." He stopped, got out, walked the perimeter. The soil was hard, the weeds tall, but the bones were good. It was half an acre, a fixer-upper lot with no water, no electricity, no structure. The owner wanted $70,000. Rafa had $11,000 saved. They struck a deal. $1,500 down, $800 a month for 5 years. No banks, just trust. He signed the agreement with trembling hands and began to build. He cleared the land by hand, dug trenches for irrigation, built a storage shed from scrap wood. He planted fruit trees, lemons, oranges, pomegranates. He created a demonstration garden. Clients could now walk his land and see his work firsthand. He painted a sign, "Castillo Landscapes." With stable income and land in his name, Rafa applied to bring his parents for a visit. It took time, paperwork, translation, patience. But eventually they arrived. His mother sobbed as she stepped onto his land. His father bent down, picked up a clump of dirt, and smiled. "You did it, mijo," he whispered. "You did more than survive. You grew." His younger brothers followed his path. One studied welding, another became a contractor. Rafa sent money back home to help build a real house. Concrete, electricity, indoor plumbing. He visited once a year. Each time the village children gathered around to hear how the gardener became a business owner. Now in his late 30s, Rafa speaks fluent English. He mentors local youth, hosts community garden events, donates landscaping work to low-income seniors. He started a scholarship for undocumented students pursuing skilled trades. He tells his crew, "Work with your hands, but lead with your heart." He still gets up before sunrise, still wears gloves worn at the fingertips. But now, when people drive past his nursery, they don't see a laborer. They see a landowner, a boss, a dreamer who built reality with soil and sweat. They say the American dream is dying, but maybe it just looks different now. It wears work boots, speaks with an accent, drives a rusty pickup, and carries a sketchbook full of possibility. Rafael Castillo didn't just landscape lawns, he landscaped his future, 1 yard at a time.